Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Hey, welcome everybody. My guest today is Sharee Ashford. She is the founder and CEO of a franchisee of Ashford Industries Mosquito Squad of East Atlanta. Mm-hmm. She is a veteran of the United States Army. She just came off of active duty as a health services officer, direct commissioned into the Army. Sharee, welcome to The Spotlight. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm having a good time.
So, when did you discover that you wanted to become an entrepreneur, and when did you start looking at franchises?
So, believe it or not, I discovered it as a child. And so early on in the ages of the eBays and Amazon, before they became the conglomerates that they are now, I had small businesses on eBay. And what I sold was I would go in my mom's closet and figure out what it is she didn't want to wear anymore. And I would sell it on eBay, shoes, clothes, all those good things. So I had a whole eBay operation going on. And then also, even in middle school, before, vending machines were in schools, I was the candy girl. So I would sell candy, snacks, juices, and things of that nature before it was so easily accessible. And so believe it or not, great business to be in.
You've been an entrepreneur then all of your life, huh? How old were you when you had your first business?
I was in seventh grade.
Oh.
I was in seventh grade. So I guess that'll make me, what was that, 13 maybe?
You had all the folding money of the people in middle school, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Okay, so you found out early on. When did you start the process, though, of investigating franchising as an option for you? And is this the first business you've incorporated?
Is not the first one that I've incorporated, but in terms of franchising, it's the first opportunity I think that I've actually had to seriously, jump into the endeavor. I've researched, various franchises over the years, but over the last year, being kind of housebound with COVID, it gave me a lot more focus time. And so in that time, I partnered with the franchise broker to start having some real conversations about what was out there and just exploring industries that I had never heard of before.
What are some others that you looked into before you settled on Mosquito Squad?
Schooling Mitchell was another that focuses on optimizing small business expenditures, specifically in the telecommunications avenue. And then home health aid. The name is escaping me right now, but essentially assisting with placement in extended living facilities and, basically navigating families through that process. Because I think it can be a bit of a tricky, convoluted process.
So you settle on Mosquito Squad. Walk me through, if you will, at a high level, the process that you went through from, hey, Mosquito Squad, I'm interested, to just kind of signing the papers and becoming an actual franchisee.
Okay. So I will say that my franchise broker that I work with, she presented me with, she did some research on her side. She presented me with 3 different franchises to talk to. And, at the beginning, she said, at any point, let me know when you're not interested. I'll let them know. And so I told her, I said, I'll talk to everybody until I make a decision. And so originally, when she brought me Mosquito Squad, I said, I don't know if I'm into killing mosquitoes, And so time went on. We worked together for about 3 months where we were talking to, people in every industry and things of that nature. And one day she called me and she said, well, how are you feeling? And I said, well, Tammy, I think I'm going to kill mosquitoes. And so from that point forward, I targeted all of my effort and energy into learning more about the Mosquito Squad industry, and more so specifically about the business model. So during that process, I was able to speak with some other owners, and I made a request specifically to speak with solo owners, not necessarily, married couples who were doing the venture collectively, because I had a unique kind of avenue that I was coming into, being a solopreneur. So I spoke with someone that was, doing the business successfully, independently. I got to speak with the COO and the franchise developer, and so probably over. So we started the process in May, and I signed the end of October. So it was a process. We call it dating to marry.
Right.
And so through that process, I did some research on my side. I, allowed some conversations to occur fluidly until, we got to where we were both on the same page, and I signed, I believe it was October 29th.
When did you get your first customer? I mean, there are not a lot of mosquitoes in November.
Correct. So in the Georgia market here, mosquito season starts around the March, April timeframe. I got my first customer at the end of March. Actually, through Nextdoor was the first one that I got.
Yeah.
He called and said, I saw some information. And so that was super. It was a Saturday morning, I remember, because I was just laying in bed, probably about 9 o'clock. And my business line rang. So I popped up. I ran and got to the computer just in case to see, how the conversation went. And I was able to secure my first customer that way. And so yes, it was some turnaround time. And during that time between signing and actually beginning service was a lot of education time, making sure everything was in order in terms of, legally and, with the state and with the county and all these other logistics that are required. And then
a little bit of red tape, right?
A lot of it. Yeah, getting all that done. And then also going through Squad School, which is the training provided by Mosquito Squad.
Talk about that. I mean, that's a big thing that a franchise provides. They provide you with a known business model that's proven.
Right.
Big thing. And then the second thing they do, they provide you with a lot of training. How much training did they provide you? What was that like?
The training has definitely been ongoing. So I attended Squad School the week of February 8th. So that was earlier this year, which seems like forever ago.
Where do they do that? Where is it headquartered?
Macon, Georgia is the new
Okay, so not too
so
far from you then. That's
not far at all. So it ended up working out perfectly, because when I originally talked to them, I think they were up and still in Virginia. So they just recently made the move to Macon, which ended up being super convenient. Prior to coming to Squad School, I did some online training that was, some prerequisite, essentially training that had to be completed beforehand. And then got to Squad School and spent a whole week in Macon just learning the business. Lots of hands-on. And then as well as just some technical things that are relevant as well, because we rely on a lot of technology as it relates to our business as well.
You're really 3 to 4 months in. I mean, how's it going?
It's going very well. I will say the biggest challenge is the weather in Georgia this year has been really wonky. We've been going in and out of some rain, and just it's one of those things where we're able to spray in the rain, but in the torrential downpour we don't spray. So some days have to get moved because of that. But other than that, I mean, I feel prepared. I will say that I definitely feel prepared.
Tell me why I should get the mosquitoes killed in my yard. Here's the sales pitch opportunity.
Well, the truth of the matter is mosquitoes are the deadliest animal on the planet. They're responsible for significant disease transmission, but outside of that part, the public health aspect of things, they're a major nuisance as well.
Right.
It is one of those things where I'll say I've even become desensitized to how much of a nuisance they are, because I have the privilege of being able to not have to deal with them. And so I think it's one of those things that once you get used to not having to deal with mosquitoes, you never want to go back.
How often do you have to treat a yard for it to be effective?
We treat on a 21-day cycle. And so like any other lawn care service, we come back on a routine schedule, which is for us 21 days, and we retreat the yard. Customers don't even have to be home, just make sure that you let us into your yard if you have a gate or anything or pets put up. But we come out, we treat the yard in about 15 to 20 minutes. It needs about 20 to 30 minutes to dry, and then you're good for 21 days.
Mosquitoes don't move around too much, actually. I think, their entire life cycle, they probably spend within a couple of 100 feet of where they're born, right?
Absolutely. And so
So
that is
that's
the
why
big
it works,
thing.
right?
That's why it works, right? And so some of the mosquito brands that are pretty mosquitoes that are pretty typical to the Georgia market, they're just that, they're container mosquitoes, ones that like to live in certain areas and don't fly very far back and forth. So you're absolutely right.
You, I've heard a little bit in the news. I mean, are they discovering that mosquitoes can transmit COVID?
Well, I haven't seen anything that confirms that yet.
But they're just
That
studying
whether
it.
right, I know there. I did see the study about that as well, but I didn't hear any confirmation that they were able to transmit COVID.
But they do transmit other diseases.
Absolutely.
West Nile and some other
Hmm.
things that are pretty bad things.
Right.
So what? How many species of mosquitoes are there in Atlanta?
If I'm not mistaken, in Georgia there are over 60 species of mosquitoes.
60.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I couldn't name two of them.
Look, there are a ton of them, and then there are ones that are pretty particular to certain areas. Like Savannah has some salt marsh mosquitoes that are pretty specific
Oh,
to the area.
oh.
Yeah,
I
I don't know
used
if
to
you've
live
been.
on the coast of South Carolina, and the first time I
Okay.
got bit by a salt marsh mosquito, it was put a welt the size of a quarter on me.
Oh my
But
goodness.
within a couple of months, I had been bitten so many times I became immune to it.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Honor, duty, service. At the Veteran Crowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. Camaraderie, teamwork, personal accountability. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. Find out more today at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. The Veteran Crowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club.
Well, hey, we're talking with Sharee Ashford. She is the founder and CEO of Ashford Industries in Atlanta, Mosquito Squad of East Atlanta. I'm going to shift gears on you now, Sharee.
Okay.
Go back and I want to trace your where you grew up, and
Hmm.
you got into the medical field before you went into the military. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. So I was raised in Decatur, Georgia, which is about 10 miles outside of Atlanta. Um, so I went to elementary, middle, and high school. My mom is actually a DOD civilian. And so with that, we got some opportunity to travel and things of that nature at an early age and experience some different environments and culture. And so I went to college I went to undergrad for biology. So I studied biology with the
Where
intent,
was that? Where'd you go undergrad?
Fort Valley State University.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went with the intent, and that's right south of Macon.
Hmm.
It's in Georgia. I went with the intent of going to medical school, and in that time, I got recommended for a study abroad trip to South Africa, and the focus of the trip was public health. And I had never heard of it, didn't know anything about it. I went and I had the time of my life.
You
I
spent a
learned
semester abroad? Is that what you did?
a summer. It was
A
a summer
summer?
semester. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And just learning about environmental sustainability and what that looks like, both on the health and the economic side. And so when I came back, I ended up applying for a graduate program getting my master's in public health. And so I just grew to be extremely passionate about the preservation of health. And so fast forward that to the military aspect is by that time I had already finished my graduate degree. I was working with one of the local hospitals here, DeKalb Medical, which is now Emory Healthcare,
Hmm.
and I just it's one of those things when you're a person of service, something pulls at you. It's like you can do something and you're fine, but there's still some kind of, I guess I'll call it external, but it may be an intrinsic attraction somewhere. And so I started to, at the time when I was working, for some reason, all these veterans, they would just say, "Why don't you join?" I'm like, but and my question was, why would I? Why would I? And they're just like, at least two of them said, yeah, you do well at it. You do well. And without much, other explanation other than you'll do well. And
you did a direct commissioning. How does that work? I mean, do they take you through some kind of a basic, or, it's not like, is it like OCS? It sounds a little different.
So the administrative process is different, but in terms of just what you said, so they call it, the name has changed, but now it's called Basic Officer Leadership Course. So it's very similar. The physical aspect is similar to OCS. The direct commissioning part is just an administrative process that's different.
Right. Where did you go for the course?
Fort Sam, Texas, so San Antonio.
Okay. And so you had to eat some dirt out there like everybody else?
A little bit. Look, specifically when you said that, you made me think of that under wire crawl, that bear crawl under the wire. So yeah, a little bit.
Interesting. So you've been on active duty now for 7 years, you told me?
Well, I spent 2 years on active duty.
2 years on active duty. Okay.
So I commissioned into the Army Reserve component.
Oh, I got
and so
you.
with that, I was able to do some active duty time within that.
Have you been deployed to anywhere in that time frame?
No. Yeah, no deployments under my belt.
Okay. So, but that's interesting. I was telling you before, I think you're the first person I've talked to about sort of that direct commissioning process. I'm curious if I guess the military is doing a lot of that. They're trying to find different categories, maybe even pilots and other specialties, right? It's not somebody with a special experience or skill set, right?
Yes. And then you're absolutely right. There are a couple, I think there are about 4 or 5 areas that are eligible for direct commissioning because it's an implication that you already have experience in it and you're not necessarily trained to do your job other than becoming acclimated to the military environment. So JAG is one of them. Being a chaplain on the officer side is one of them. Army medical, to include doctors, nurses, health admin, is another. So yeah, there are a couple other branches where you can direct commission in because it requires you have some credentialing on the civilian side already.
Interesting. Okay, so now let's talk about how do you think your time in the military is helping you be a better business? And you were an entrepreneur from the beginning, right? But how do you think that experience is shaping what you're doing today?
The biggest thing that comes to mind is leading and resilience. And I'll say, so resilience goes back to that failure piece I mentioned, just being able to bounce back and, when things change all of a sudden, that's kind of the hurry up and wait, or just all of those things where you have to be able to be adaptable and flexible to changes. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is going to be the lead. I will say that another big driver for me in terms of service was learning to lead in a systematic way was important to me. And not having to wait my whole career to do it, right? It's one of those things where all of a sudden on the military side, it's like, it's your go, it's your time. You're like, but I don't feel comfortable. I don't know. You'll learn. And so just being able to lead with good judgment and lead knowing that every decision is not going to be 100% the perfect decision, but then you lean back on resilience.
It's more important to make the decision than to be perfect, right?
Right, absolutely. So I think those are the 2 big things that were big takeaways for me that have definitely just helped me just stay focused and not, not lose confidence when things are not going, 100% perfect.
How many, well, here's another question. How is leading in a business and leading employees in a business different than leading as an officer in the Army?
Honestly, I'll say it's not a world of difference. And so I say that is because, the intent is for you to keep morale going, lead by example, be a part of the fight. All of these things, they're pretty much the same, in that even when it comes to something like Mosquito Squad, I don't ask my employees to do anything that I can't do, and that is very much the same motto, when it comes to the Army, is that, you lead by example. You're able to do everything you're being, but delegation is also important. Showing that you're, proving that you're capable, but also delegating is the best use of everyone's time.
How many employees have you got now, Sharee?
Right now, I have 3 employees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're actually out there slinging the gun, right?
Absolutely. I definitely still go in the field, and for me, it's for me and for them. So it's one of those things where, to keep myself grounded and making sure that I, all the changes and things like that, and then also making sure the customers know who they're doing business with, making sure they see my face and knowing that I'm just not some, mythical person in the sky that's just having people show up at their house, but also just creating that relationship with customers. But then also, reaffirming to my employees that, it's a team effort, and that we're all on the same mission here.
It's very important. Business is a relationship thing, isn't it? What does the next 12 months look like? I mean, what's sort of the big goal for you, and how do you define success, in this business?
Okay. The next 12 months, so we'd be looking at next July. It's definitely my goal to have at a minimum doubled my current customer capacity. And so that's going to include, acquiring another vehicle to be a part of the fleet. I definitely want to acquire some more employees. And to answer your question about defining success, for me, success is it's a marathon, I guess I'll say, not so much a sprint to a specific destination. It's about acknowledging things that have, positive things that have worked and continuing doing those things, and then just revamping things that might need work. So I don't think I have a finite definition at this point, and I don't know if that's good or bad. So
well, you're learning. Hey, we've been talking with Sharee Ashford in Atlanta of Ashford Industries, Mosquito Squad of East Atlanta. Sharee, how do people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So we are on Facebook, Mosquito Squad of East Atlanta. You can find us on Facebook, but also you can visit us on www.mosquitosquad.com/East Atlanta. Okay.
Well, we will put links to both your Facebook page and your website on the show notes. I told you 20 minutes would go by quickly, right? We've had a delightful conversation. Sharee Ashford, thank you so much for your time in the service in the Army, and thanks for stepping into the spotlight today.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Hey, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. Our guest has been Sharee Ashford. We're going to put information out there. Be sure, if you're in the East Atlanta metro area, it's time to get rid of those mosquitoes. Get in touch with Sharee. I'm sure she'll take great care of you. Sharee, I want to throw out a big Army Bravo Zulu to you. Thanks so much for being our guest on the program, folks. And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.